So, guys, back at it again with another video. I'm gonna be reacting to Mine Warehouse, and the video this today is he ran for 365 days straight. What has become of him? All right, let's react to this.
Hello, everyone.
Surprise.
Physical activity has many advantages and only one disadvantage. It allows us to be healthier, thinner, and fitter, and it also makes us happy as it contributes to the development of endorphins, the hormones of happiness.
Just thought, yeah, not bad. Really?
The disadvantage is that it takes a long time to train, and it's a complex and exhausting process, so not many people can overcome themselves and devote half an hour a day to exercise. If you're facing the problem that for a long time you can't go to the gym, don't worry, we'll help you, because we will speak of an incredible and inspiring example of the strength of human will. This is Hella Sidibe, who set himself an almost impossible
You know
task
he
to
already
run
fast.
every day for 365 days. To find out if he did it and what happened to him, keep watching. Well, let's get it on.
He probably didn't know
Well,
the
we're not going
same
to
boat.
intrigue you too much and will immediately reveal to you that Hella Sidibe achieved his goal by running every day for an entire year,
Usain Bolt,
no matter the weather or how
new
he
one.
felt. However, the story of how he did it evokes respect and will serve as a stimulus for you to start practicing or exercising more frequently. Everyone who participates in sports challenges has a common opinion. The hardest part is the beginning. It's hard to run, nobody denies it, but it's much harder to find enough willpower every day to get out on the street anyway. In the first few weeks of the challenge, it was so difficult to overcome himself that Hela Sidibe ran only 10 minutes each day. The minimum distance he ran in one day was 1.5 kilometers. Despite all the difficulties, the man was still forced to
Stupid ass
run out
hat.
every day.
Oh,
And finally, after a month of practice, this became a habit and even an obligatory ritual. This, however, doesn't mean that it
he
was
looks
much easier
fast.
for Hela to run. The boy began to notice a greater resistance and gradually began to increase the jogging time. First, he ran about 8 kilometers a day, then 9.5, and at the end of the challenge, he covered a total distance of 13 kilometers. Every
Damn.
time the athlete was going to run, he put a tracker on his wrist to know how much he was actually running. It's hard to believe, but for a year, Hella ran 4,517 miles.
That's the new
Well, that's not
Usain
bad.
Bolt
It's
right
like
there, I
running through the
swear.
state of Luxembourg 12.5 times. Well, or like running horizontally through the United States of America. Hella Sidibe is an example of the fact that even if you work a little but regularly without being overcome by laziness and surpassing yourself, in the end you will be able to achieve an incredible result. Maybe you see Hella, notice his athletic build, and say, well, I can't do it. He's African, and they only all
Racist as
have athletic
fuck.
genes. Well, maybe so, but Hella is an exception. The boy was born in the western part of Africa, in the city of Mali. In this region, people are very thin. In this photo of Hella's football team, you can see that the child was short, while the other children were taller and larger than him. When he was a child, Hella, seeing that he was different from his peers, promised himself that,
Wasn't there
regardless of
only
the
one black
sacrifices,
boy?
he would become an athlete, and in the mirror he would find an athletic person. As you can see, the man kept his promise. Practicing squats and push-ups every day, Hella noticed how his body began to change. Even the simplest and most basic exercises were enough to accentuate his athletic figure. His chest inflated, and his abdomen divided into small cubes.
Jesus
Such
Christ.
changes inspired the man to join the gym. He continued studying, however. He performed more and more different exercises. The results, of course, didn't appear instantly. Sport doesn't work that way. But today, the man has an excellent physique and impressive muscles that can only be envied. Sometimes surpassing oneself is the most difficult and exhausting test for a person. However, the
He
daily
looked like he
struggle with
takes that
laziness,
worry.
discipline,
Oh,
and dedication form an iron character, which ultimately leads
he's
to
buff
victory.
as
For a
fuck.
year, Hella ran every day, in winter and summer, in the heat and snow, under storms and torrential rains. He could have given up and rested for a couple of days, and let himself be overcome by his own body, which doesn't want to overcome the difficulties. However, for Hella, this would mean losing, and he couldn't proudly say, I ran every day for 365 days. And although the test was incredibly difficult, Hella admits it was definitely worth it, because nothing compares to the triumph he experienced when he crossed the finish line after a year. If Hella had succumbed to weakness, he wouldn't have been able to accomplish this fantastic and inspiring feat. He wouldn't have been able to run or talk about everything he experienced in the 365 days and its changes inside and out. If the example of Hella Sidibe for some reason doesn't seem too inspiring to you, we have actually found 4 other people who've shown that there is no limit to human capabilities. You don't need to be afraid of difficulties, and you must move toward the goal every day. When Jessica
He's
Cox was
low
young,
key
her
true.
biggest fear was flying. Every time she and her family had to fly somewhere on a commercial airplane, there was no limit to their horror. At some point, however, everything changed. The girl decided that she wanted to learn to fly in an airplane, even though she had no hands. Jessica was born this way, and in her childhood she wore special prostheses, but then abandoned them, deciding that she'd use her legs for everything.
Whoa,
She
that's
admits that
hella
at first she
cool.
was very, very afraid to study. Every day she had to outdo herself. Even the simplest operations, such as buckle up, were given to her with difficulty. However, the woman didn't even think about giving up. Today she easily
Damn.
performs with her feet all the actions we do with our hands.
What? That's so cool. Oh my god, this girl is cool.
And in addition, Jessica Cox is the first woman who learned to fly using only her legs. She even managed to get a pilot's license.
What?
And my left foot here on the throttle.
That's so cool. This woman's using her feet only? Jesus.
The life of Simplice Rabuum, the athlete who represented Australia at the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, was not easy from the beginning. He was born in the city of Douala, Cameroon, into a poor family on the outskirts of the port. There was nothing around except dirt, poverty, and slums. Simplice already knew that it was impossible to get out of there. He started working from childhood, helping his father on the docks, lifting all sorts of things like coffee bags and fruit boxes. Usually, men in that kind of work completely destroy their knee joints. But Simplice was lucky with genetics, and he became stronger and more resistant. It's
The
no
Black
surprise
Panther.
that in the end he joined the national weightlifting team. The line between amateur and professional sports in those places is extremely thin. The talented boys who have accomplished something are called to the professional teams. In 2006, Simplice Rabuum at 23 won a bronze medal at the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne, Australia. The event was sensational, but the athlete wasn't happy as he had to make the most important decision of his life. Simplice realized that his trip to Australia for these competitions was the first time he'd left the country and his only chance to have a normal life. The athlete left the medal at the hotel so as to not attract attention, and then disappeared among the many streets and for some time lived like a vagabond. The parents approved of the trip as long as he returned home, and even before Simplice's departure, they warned him to not even think about running away. He knew that if he returned, he'd never be able to escape from the foul-smelling and dirty port. 2 years later, the athlete received Australian citizenship, and a couple of years later he began a family and started competing in Australia. However, he did have to return home for his father's funeral. At that moment, unaccustomed to the heat, the incredible amount of flies and the dirt, the athlete became infected with malaria. The next 2 weeks in a dirty hospital became a nightmare. Simplice was delirious, too weak to remove the flies from his face, and lost 20 kilograms. When the athlete recovered and returned to Australia, his
Sounds
wife didn't
disgusting.
even recognize him, and the coaches started looking for a replacement because the Rio Olympics started in 6 months. We can't even imagine Simplice Rabuum's inhumane efforts to recover so quickly and get back in shape. In the end, he managed to travel to the Olympic Games, taking 13th place, lifting
Pretty good.
155 and 185 kilograms.
Damn.
Here it is. Another story of an
That's
incredibly
hella
strong
cool.
man. Since we're talking about people who inspire us with their incredible willpower, we can't help but mention Arnold Joseph, whom fans call Sugarfoot. When he was a kid, he was incredibly fond of sports, but the fact that he was able to join the school basketball team can't be considered luck. Why? Well, because the child was born without a left foot. For some, it
Is
may
he
be an
still
excuse
busting
to lead a
people out
sedentary
here?
lifestyle. However, Carl set all sorts of records, running, jumping, and even joining his college football team. Unfortunately, he didn't participate in professional sports, but he became an example to his